hello, and welcome back again to the Redhead Podcast. I hope you enjoyed our episode last time and are excited for this one this week. So, kind of impromptu, we actually have a guest for this week. It was not originally planned, but it fit in, and the interview is really great, and I'm excited for you guys to hear it. But today we're going to be talking about friendships, what makes friendships healthy and unhealthy, kind of some red flags to listen to, and then my guest Josie and I will be sharing some of our experiences and, give some of our advice. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see if this sparks any conversations, hear all of your feedback, and hopefully, this resonates with people. Hopefully you learn some stuff today. So I'm going to reference two different articles in this episode, and I'm going to link both of them in the description if you want to read them through more. But basically, one kind of talks about healthy and unhealthy friendships, and the other one talks about some friendship red flags, things to look out for. I wanted to pull some expert opinions on this and not just come from just my perspectives, because my perspectives are just mine. So again, pulling in the experts. So I really believe that, to get on the same page, I want to define all of the topics we talk about. So with that being said, I'm going to talk about some of these unhealthy versus unhealthy dynamics. So what a healthy friendship can look like is it's not one-sided. So both people benefit from knowing each other. These friendships are based on mutual respect. They allow each other to grow and change. They aren't possessive. They nourish you and add to your life. They accept you for who you are. They allow you to have your feelings. They respect differences you guys have. They're safe and secure. Both people are committed to the friendship, and they are not about power or status. So on the contrast, unhealthy friendships are when one person seems to give a lot more than the other. People ridicule one another, gossip or spread rumors, or act mean to one another. Friendships are threatened when one person grows or changes. They may be just threatened by other people in general. They leave you feeling empty and drained. They require you to act the way, they want you to in order to be accepted. They might only accept certain feelings or perspectives and not really ask you to be yourself and kind of demand conformity. Trusts are broken, secrets are shared, and confidentialities are betrayed. Only one person is committed to the relationship, and unhealthy friendships look to take advantage of one person's social standing or something about them in order to improve their own lives. So obviously we all kind of understand the basics, but I definitely was kind of learning some new things reading through these, and I think it's really important to recognize is you both have your own identities outside of the friendship. You both support each other, you're kind to each other, you allow each other to be who you are. Those are all just signifiers of really good, healthy friendships, and when that's not there, it's definitely could be a sign of an unhealthy or a toxic friendship. So we're going to get straight into the guest interview. So we're going to talk to my friend Josie. So she'll introduce herself a little bit, but I'm going to introduce her as my friend. So I've known her for quite some time now. I met her through a student job I have and a club that I'm part of, but she is a really great friend of mine, and I think something that I will always recognize with her that, I think we both share is we are both committed to working on ourselves and improving ourselves and learning those tough life lessons, and you can hear that in what she shares. And without further ado, I am just excited for you guys to hear from her, and here's that. So we have our first guest. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Josie. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I am a senior at Rutgers right now studying public health and psychology.
All right. So, obviously, this topic is friendships. So, I just wanted to ask you what is some of your experiences with friendships, good and bad? Feel free to share all the tea.
Okay, definitely. So to start off with bad, because I always like to start out with negative and end with positive. Um, I've definitely had multiple friendships where I was super, super close with somebody and then kind of like burnt out in a sense, like almost as quickly as we got so close, started doing everything together, just as quickly that came to an end. So what I would say about that is that something that I noticed kind of like the common thread between a lot of those is people like create issues with you when they have unresolved things within themselves, and that kind
Mm-hmm.
of has been a a common theme in my life. So like most recently I had a really close best friend who like we like did everything together. We were so close. Like I thought we were like soulmates. Like we were inseparable. I literally was like, this person is going to be like at my wedding, maid of honor. She like my kids are gonna call her auntie, like, like the whole 9 yards. And then um they kind of just like switched up on me and told me that there was like a lot of things that had bothered them about our relationship for a while, but kind of just like very out of the blue dumped it all on me and then kind of distanced themselves from me. And I think that that's always really hard because when you are somebody who is like very upfront and like very honest about how you feel and just like very, I don't know, in the field of like wanting to make changes. Like I'm
Right.
somebody who, if somebody tells me that like they I hurt them or did something wrong, like I try to fix it.
Right.
I don't like run away from those kinds of things. So like when somebody brings a problem to me and then like they decide to kind of like give up, like that's definitely hard. And I think also just, hearing that you hurt somebody or that somebody's upset with you like so like far back, like wishing like someone had brought something up to you in the moment so you could have addressed it, because I'm not a mind reader, nobody is. And I think just having that experience of just always like multiple times now in my life having people be upset with me but not tell me, and then like really harbor like resentment towards me, and then
Yeah.
like never giving me the opportunity to like be the person that I am, which is somebody who grows. Like I'm always growing, I'm always changing, I'm like definitely not perfect. And I think that that's like okay as long as we're able to like acknowledge the things that we do wrong and then become better. So yeah, that's definitely been like the worst thing. And I think just like no, I think like the hardest thing is like knowing that like it's like really not your fault. Like you couldn't have done anything. Like you literally did everything you could. You gave every opportunity for like someone to like talk to you or like confront you about things. You would be willing to change, do all like the whole 9 yards, and just have somebody be so um I don't know, just kind of like flip on a dime. I think that that really hurts, and it
Yeah.
really can just feel so painful, and it makes it really hard to engage in relationships after that, whether it's romantic or platonic, it doesn't matter. It just feels so bad, and it makes like the next relationship so scary. So that's my trauma. That's what I've like dealt with even just recently.
And then, so to share a little bit about some of your positive relationships.
Oh, absolutely. So, yeah, it's not all bad. I definitely have some like
Hopefully not.
really amazing friends. Yeah, I know, right? I definitely have some really amazing friends. Honestly, I want to talk about like my housemates
Mm-hmm.
because it's such like a recent thing, like being in quarantine, like basically being like trapped with a bunch of people. It
Right.
you would hope that those people are good, and not everybody has that. So I would say like the difference between like the relationship I had with my friends who I'm not friends with anymore and the relationship I have with truly like most of my housemates is just like there is so much like love and respect there. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're not reliant on each other. Like that's the big thing. Like I look back at my old relationship and I'm like, we were so codependent. Like we did everything together. like, yes, out of like a want to, but also like this like interdependency where like if one of us was mad at each other, we like felt so sick, and like that's just not good. And I think like with my housemates now, like we're so upfront with each other. I mean, like I'd like to think so. I even when it's like scary, I try to be like, hey, I didn't like when you did that, or
Right.
something like that, and just like nip things in the bud like when they happen, instead of like never saying something and then just bringing it up. I really enjoy these friendships just because like we're also able to like do our own thing. Like we a lot of us are in relationships, and so like that is like obviously can be like a really big priority, but I always feel like they make time for like our relationships, whether it's one-on-one things or like
Yeah.
group things or whatever. um I don't know. It's just it's so different and it like feels so good and it's so healthy. It's so nice like being around so many people who are just so loving and like fun and like I don't know.
And I
It's a
think
really nice change of
I
pace.
think like friendship groups are like so different too from like the just like the standalone, two people friendships. It's like it's definitely interesting to also see that dynamic and how just you feel like so supported in this group. And I think it can be really hard when you get close to like one person specifically, because it does feel like, yeah, there is that codependency, there is that you just kind of like rely on that person, and sometimes you put so much into that one basket that it's almost like when that is taken away, it feels so earth shattering, because it's like, wait, 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 I've been neglecting all of my other friends, and now that
Wow.
this person is gone, where do I go? And so sometimes when you have like a better like, I guess you disperse like your
Yeah,
friendships
better
like more.
balance.
Yeah, a better balance. It's like so much easier. Obviously, God forbid you do like, and a friendship. It's like, okay, well, I have like other support here, so I'll be okay. With that, I know you kind of touched on it a little bit. What are some of the things that you've learned from both the good and the bad?
I would just say like I would just reiterate, drill it in very as much as I can that
Mm-hmm.
like it's you can't control everything. Like it's kind of like what you said, like God forbid somebody leaves. It's like it's that, and it's also just like at the end of the day, like you shouldn't be in a relationship where you're afraid to stand in your integrity.
Mm.
And like I say that to say like in my old relationship, I'm like acting like they're like my boyfriends. In my old relationship, as in like my best friendship, there was many moments when I was the worst version of myself, and I was afraid to be the best version of myself because it would somehow sabotage the relationship. Like one of the things we thought about was that I really wanted to stay friends with somebody that they didn't want me to stay friends with anymore, and I almost did it. Like I almost walked away from another friendship
Right.
so that they felt at ease, and that made me feel so disgusting because the person that they didn't want me to like have in my life anymore is somebody who is like very important to me and who has taken care of me through like
Mm-hmm.
some of the worst moments in my life, and it felt and I almost did it because of like just like the fear of losing my friend. I was
Right.
like she was my best friend and I was so afraid to lose her, so I almost did that. And there was moments like that all the time where I felt like I wasn't able to be the best version of myself because they weren't the best version of themselves. And
Right.
we were a unit, so if I it's almost like an enemy of progress. Like if I was
Mm-hmm.
going to progress and be better, then like that would mean I would leave them behind, and I just didn't want to do that, and like that's never good. Like that's always like a tell sign of like you're not in a good space,
Yeah.
because all the relationships I'm in now, I can stand in my integrity and I don't have a fear of losing them.
Right.
Like I even the other day I was talking I was feeling upset and I went to one of my friends and I said, I miss you. You've been spending a lot of time with your partner, and that's so good and I'm so happy for you, and yet here I am like missing you, and I just and I'm feeling upset, like I'm feeling almost a little resentful. And they were like, thank you so much for like saying that to me. Like
Right.
just I was so shocked by how like loving they were, and like how they were like, yeah, thank you for telling me that. Because so many other people in my life in the past would have been like, are you kidding me? Like they would have gotten so defensive or been like, why are you saying that? I mean, I guess like the other part of it is like I came at it with love. I didn't make them feel bad about it. I just said like,
Right.
I miss you. Like I'm sad. I
Right.
miss you. I feel like I don't see you enough. And I think that I'm able to be the best version of myself because like the people around me are the best versions of themselves. And yeah, it just goes back to integrity. Like, are you around people who make you feel like you are standing in your integrity, or are you around people who make you feel like if you stand in your integrity you will lose them? And that's always such a
Yeah,
tell sign.
for sure. I know I'm towards the another part of the episode I'm going to talk about red flags in friendships, so that's definitely like touching on some of that. Just to wrap up, do you have any advice for making friends, being a good friend, how to avoid toxic friendships, anything like that?
The one piece of advice I would like to give is I always hear this thing, which is like, oh, if people don't reach out to you or whatever, if you're always the first person to pick up the phone, then like then like that means that they like don't really care about you or something like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, oh, don't text anybody for a week and see what happens. And I feel like what I would say is like I don't really believe in that. I don't know if
Neither do
that's like
I.
good, bad, or whatever. But I have a lot of friends who aren't the planners and they're not the people to pick
Mm-hmm.
up the phone first, but that has nothing to do with how much they love and care about me. I think that if you feel like you are pouring too much into a relationship and you're not getting anything back, I think it's valid to pull away and to just redistribute that energy into other relationships that you are feeling that reciprocity in.
Yeah.
But I don't think I feel like sometimes we're so intense, especially myself. I'll be like,
Mm-hmm.
well, they're not talking to me, so I'm just like never gonna talk to them again, and then like we'll see what happens. And it doesn't have to be so like one or the other. I think that there's just like seasons in our lives. Like sometimes people are really stressed out and overwhelmed, or they're really like I don't know into one relationship, and
Right.
they're not prioritizing other things. But that doesn't mean it's gonna last forever. A lot of times, like we have those moments and then we realize that we're not being like you said, like we're not like what's it called, putting our eggs in different baskets, and then we're like, okay, that's not good, I need to stop doing that. Like if all my friends who I was friends with when I was super into my relationship with my old best friend, if all those friends decided that they hated me and like wouldn't give me another chance for how I was acting when I was so invested in that toxic relationship, I wouldn't have any friends right now. They would
Right.
all have abandoned me, but a lot of them gave me that grace, and they were like, "Yeah, you were really invested in that relationship, and you have learned something from that, and now you are way better at giving the time and attention back to like the friends who like are making you a priority." And I think that that's just important. Just having that grace, just being able to say like, "Hey, like, yeah." I don't know, communicating and being able to say, hey, you're not really being present right now. And then if like nothing changes, like being able to take a step back, but it doesn't have to be like an all or nothing, like, oh, our friendship is ending. No, maybe it's just like on a hiatus for a little while, and like that's okay. Just redistribute your energy, and then like everything will be okay.
Yeah, I think that reminds me of like conditional support, and I'll talk a little bit more about it later, but just the idea that, if someone's not the first person responding to you, or if they're going through something and they can't support you back, then it's like they lose your support too. And like it has to be okay that like you said, those seasons of friendships, like sometimes you're just gonna wax and wane. Sometimes they're gonna be closer than others. Sometimes someone is going through something and you're just not the person they need in that supportive role. So it's like I think when we're friends, we have to understand that like it's not always gonna be like you're super close knit, and like that's just part of it, and that's something we all gotta accept and also like love each other through, because again, conditional support, it's not real support. um if you don't have anything else, I just want to thank you so much for being on and sharing your perspective. I always want to highlight other voices, other
Of
experiences.
course.
So thank you. I will like link any socials you want me to in the bio, so I'll send people there to check you out and all the amazing stuff you're doing. But yeah, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me. All right, bye.
Bye. I just want to take a minute to recognize and thank a sponsor of the podcast. Anchor is the platform that I currently use to edit and create my podcast, and it has been so great and user-friendly. So let me tell you a little bit more about it. First of all, it's free. What more could you ask for? There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. So I again want to thank Josie for coming on. She was such a great guest and echoed some of the stuff I was already going to say, so she did my job for me. But basically, I wanted to bring someone else on to share their experience and then, share some of my experiences. So it's not all just about me, and there can be kind of a diverse view of friendships, both healthy and unhealthy. So I'm going to highlight just a few of the friendships and the situations that I have gone through. And I will say that, for me now, I typically just keep a handful of good friends who I actually reach out to. And that's not necessarily because I'm afraid of people leaving or hurting me or anything like that. It's mainly because, I've dealt with friendship heartbreak. I've dealt with some situations, and for me, I really care about really giving to people, and I find that I cannot invest enough into people and make sure friendships are healthy if I'm having so many friends. One of them is going to fall by the wayside, and so I tend to keep it smaller, but I know that other people benefit from having a lot of friends, and that's also completely valid. So going back to some of the first issues and friendships that I had early on, grade school and middle school, I had this kind of repeating problem where I would have a really close friend and then they would meet someone else, and all of a sudden they were best friends. And then it was just always okay, well, they just really abandoned me. They just really picked someone over me. And I think part of the issue is I was viewing it like that. They were picking someone over me, and I kind of was always why? I'm such a good friend. I bring so much value to this friendship. I don't know why they wouldn't want to be friends with me, kind of thing. And while it did create insecurities, I definitely sometimes would turn it kind of the opposite way, where I would be that person isn't even nice. And something that was true. Sometimes those people would be mean to me, or other people wouldn't like them, but this friend, for whatever reason did. And it definitely created some issues for me, because I was just I don't know why I'm not being chosen. So those are some of the early friendship difficulties I had as a young little girl. But then some of the next friendships, this situation happened with one of the friends who ended up kind of in one of those abandonment situations, but I kind of was involved in some trauma bond friendships, and I won't lie, those still happen today. Sometimes you're going through something and someone else is too, and you're just wow, let's go through it together. But these two happened late grade school and middle school area, so that can be a really challenging time for a lot of people. I will just say that one was a little bit more severe than the other, but I was kind of tasked with dealing with really difficult situations and trying to figure out how to support a person through that when I was young, and also dealing with my own stuff. So, in one of the situations, it was very much so being, called and saying, I'm going to hurt myself, and how do you deal with that? And so I was really young, and trying to figure out how to support someone through that is really hard. That's hard to support someone through now at my age of being 23. And so when I was, 13 or 12 or whatever, how old I was in those situations, like, I definitely didn't know how to deal about it. And in one of the situations, I kind of got involved in some like family drama that I really should not have been involved in, but I was too young and I didn't really know what I was doing, and that was really, really hard. And I definitely am not friends with either of those people now. So part of the reason I wanted to talk about this is not only that I've had recent heartbreak in terms of friendships, but I also went through a really, really devastating heartbreak, probably like the biggest heartbreak I've ever felt in my entire life. I clearly don't have a lot of relationship experience because I'm sure someone will come along and break my heart in that way too. But friendship breaks, heartbreaks are real, are just as real. So this situation, I knew her from like late middle school till early high school. It was quite a while, and that was one of the first friendships where I really felt like I found my person. And in some ways, I still feel like she was like, one of my people throughout my life, like you kind of find those people that, if it's a soulmate or whatever you want to call it, people that just get you and, you finish each other's sentences and there's just something different. She was my first experience with that, and she kind of was one of the ones who like abandoned me, but there was a lot going on with that friendship, and truly still have pain from that. I've kind of kept in contact with her, but I'm clearly still not over it after all these years, and that's okay. And the feelings that I have towards this person and the love I have for this person is never going to go away. And so I think it just evolves, and it really is a grieving process, and I have to grieve that this person is not in my life anymore. So moving into, actually I met this person as that friendship was ending. So he is like my current best friend. He's definitely listening to this, so shout out to him. But him and I would say like the we've had a lot of toxicity in our friendship, and I think it's one of the truest examples to me of like a friendship that can grow to a healthy place. So him and I have ebbed and flowed. I would say there were some really toxic moments, not even necessarily on his end, on my end. So we were two dramatic, hormonal teenagers going through, and we were in theater, and we would have disagreements. Once I got so mad that he didn't cast me in his play. Obviously other stuff was going on, but that was a big catalyst. But we would do like friendship breaks, and it was just so dramatic. And we did have like a friendship break just a few years ago. And I honestly was not sure if we were going to make it through that one. But I will just say that him and I definitely butted heads a lot, but the most significant thing about that was resentment. Josie definitely mentioned that, but I held so much resentment for so many things. I was such a jealous person, and none of that was his fault. Like, I can't blame him for any of that, but it led to a really toxic friendship at times. And while I am so glad that we are at a healthy place now, probably healthier than ever, I will just say that like it took me to not only forgive him for certain things, but also just like accept certain things. And I think that's really important. Sometimes we have people in our lives, and sometimes we just have to accept for who they are, and get over things within ourselves. There's a situation where I felt kind of inadequate because he had a lot of close friends, and I felt like he was not picking me enough, which obviously was referencing that previous abandonment stuff in my early friendships, but it just wasn't really the case, and to this day is not the case. And sometimes those feelings still come up. I'm just like, I wish he was paying more attention to me. But that's about me, not about him. And I think it's really important to recognize where we come in, and how we can grow too, and that friendships can get healthier after after not so great. And we were young, we were going through our high school dramas, so it's very okay that we started out that way. To wrap up, I want to highlight two more recent friendships. Actually, these are like the two ones that have recently like ended that hurt a lot, and it was like the same thing twice over, definitely slightly different, but definitely mirrored each other a lot. And they also kind of mirror the situation that Josie went through. So both of these people, I wouldn't say the beginning of it was toxic, but I will say that the toxicity bled in pretty quickly, and it just ended quite toxic. And the one, she kind of ghosted me, and then the other, I decided to end it. But I think definitely building resentment, definitely like not addressing things with each other. Josie mentioned that. I will just say that I I I definitely tolerated things in both of these friendships that I don't think I would have in other situations. And sometimes you just have to realize that like you deserve better, but also they deserve better too. Like I was definitely not my best version of myself in these friendships either. So I cannot place like the full blame on them. But I will just say that like it was really hard to lose them because both of them I really did develop a strong bond with. And I think to see it get to such a negative, toxic place can be really, really hard. And, you know, as Josie mentioned, sometimes you like see these people in future parts of your life and you see them with your kids or at your wedding, and that was definitely true for both of these people. And I'm kind of always hesitant to like think about that stuff, but I really saw that I was going to be friends with them both for quite a while. And sometimes people, as Josie referenced, which is something I say all the time, is like sometimes people are just there for seasons of your life, and it is okay. And I don't know, maybe I will, with any of these people, maybe our friendship will pick back up again. I've certainly reached out to almost everyone that I've like talked about after our friendships have ended. Some of them I still like keep up with on social media, or we occasionally message back and forth, with wish each other happy birthday. But those friendships are not going anymore, and I have love for all these people and I wish them all of the best. But sometimes friendships just don't work out, and it's rough, and we need people to support us. But I think it's so important to recognize when things become toxic that they do need to end, and that things, if you're meant to be friends, then they'll come back to each other, hopefully after you both do some self-work and can figure out the things that were leading to that toxic environment. All right, so as I mentioned before, we're going to talk about some red flags. So I found another article because I will say it 100 times over, I'm not an expert, so I will bring in experts to help us talk about these topics in a informed way. So she kind of breaks it down into a few different scenarios, as well as like two different types of red flags. So I'm going to kind of go with what she did because I think it's an important way to look at it. So this first set of red flags, there's only like technically two scenarios. She basically says it's really important to listen to your intuition. So these aren't inherently toxic or unhealthy, but basically if you're noticing them, kind of figure out where they're coming from. So the first one is you realize that hanging out with this friend maybe leaves you feeling like not so great. And then the second one is that you kind of start finding reasons to avoid spending time with them, or maybe you want to cancel plans with them. And I think we've all been there with different friendships, different situations. And so it's not necessarily like you feel this and it's like, oh, they're a toxic friend, I need to get them out of my life. Like You could just be having a bad day, you could be having a bad week, a bad month, a bad year. It's okay to pull away from some people when you need to. Sometimes you're going to feel less extroverted or less outgoing, and that doesn't mean that that's an unhealthy friendship. It could just mean that you're not vibing with them at the moment or whatever. But if you recognize that you're having a great time and you're doing well with your mental health, and you want to see all your other friends, but this person, every time you just kind of get a bad vibe and you don't really want to see them, definitely a red flag, definitely something to keep in mind. Moving forward to red flags that are definitely more toxic and kind of represent more actual toxic situations are your friend only seems to really want to spend time with you or only likes you when they need something from you. Definitely something to look out for. Your friend tries to isolate you from your other relationships in your life, and maybe by bad mouthing your other friends or romantic partners. That's really not a good sign. You find yourself trying to make excuses for them and maybe defend their behavior to your friends or family who maybe have a better perspective and more clearly see how they're treating you or kind of the things that they maybe struggling with. So while friendships are definitely based on social exchange, red flag friends typically, draw more from the friendship bank than they put into it. So kind of like, yes, transactional friendships exist. We're all kind of doing that thing. But when you really are noticing that, like, they are the ones that are doing most of the transactions, or they're the ones doing the taking and you're doing the giving, that can be definitely something to look out for. So a few other scenarios that she provides are friends that may not have your best interest at heart. So new acquaintances who seem to claim too much of your time or maybe share too much personal information too soon. Friends who only contact you when something is going wrong in their lives. Kind of they only need a shoulder to cry on and everything else isn't. They don't want you in those times. Definitely been there. Friends who take control of planning outings or just things without kind of consulting you or seeing what you'd be interested in. You always want to do what they want to do. Definitely not fun. Friends who kind of take over conversations or only want to discuss their own lives and their own experiences without ever giving you the time to share your perspectives or feelings. Not good. Friends who complain that you are not available enough, active enough, understanding enough. Basically, they just bring forward all of your shortcomings and all the ways you're not good enough. Definitely not healthy. Friends who view you as competition or just kind of make everything a comparison and how you're better or they're better. Definitely not that great. And then friends who are maybe not too shy about asking to borrow money but never return it. That is a slippery slope, and while sometimes you might have friends that need some help or you're at dinner, maybe they can't pay, maybe 1 or 2 times, that's fine, but creating a situation where they owe you a bunch of money is just never a fun thing. So if that can be avoided, that is definitely something you should aim for. So again, as Josie certainly mentioned, bringing things up with our friends is really important. It can feel really frustrating when you don't bring them up, which certainly led to one of her friendships kind of ending, because the friend didn't feel like she could bring things up and then got so mad and built all this resentment that it ended their friendship. I've been there as well too. But also recognizing that, like, part of a healthy friendship, as she described, is like having a friend where you can bring something up to them and it's not going to cause a fight. It's not going to like cause a situation, and really thinking about friends being a partnership and they're between two people. And so if you can't work through things together and figure out solutions together, that's a problem. Like, you should be able to talk. And so when we notice red flags, we should think about them and how they affect us, and then we should be able to respectively bring them up with those close to us without fear of retaliation or an emotional outburst or fight. So bringing up red flags, bringing up areas of conflict, things you disagree on. You should be able to have healthy disagreements without it being about fighting or getting too emotional or leading to other resentment because things aren't resolved. Resentment is like the killer to all happy relationships. So definitely take note of all of that and try to be as mindful as you can. All right, so this week's song of the week, and I referenced it last time. It is by an artist called Phineas. He is the producer and brother of Billie Eilish, small little artist, Billie Eilish, but he has some great music as well. A few of his songs are like, have really special places in my heart because he knows how to hit deep, but this song is called I Lost a Friend, and I've cried to this song. I've sang this song in the shower, screaming. It's that kind of song. And I do not feel that there are many songs about losing friends. Actually, for this episode, I was like, are there any good ones that I'm missing? And I wasn't really finding any, which is probably why this song has been so meaningful, because it's the only one I really found in my time of losing some recent friends. So, as always, I'm going to read a lyric and kind of debrief a little bit, kind of explain it a little bit more. So, I know I'll be all right, but I'm not tonight. I'll be lying awake, counting all the mistakes I've made, replaying fights. I know I'll be all right, but I'm not tonight. I'm on the mend, but I lost a friend. I lost my mind. And another lyric later is like, how can I lose a friend I never had? So it's just very real, very authentic about all the feelings you can have after losing a friend, replaying the friendship, definitely replaying the fights, trying to figure out why it ended, what went wrong, what did I do wrong, like how could I have fixed it, and also kind of questioning the validity of the friendship, were they a friend to me at all, and I think it's really important to just let yourself grieve that friendship, let yourself be upset, let yourself cry to the song if you need to, but recognizing that as Josie and I have both mentioned, sometimes friendships are there for seasons, and not everyone is meant to be in our lives forever. I know there are people that looking back we are so glad are out of our lives, and it's just important to recognize kind of all of what you're feeling, but as he says, you'll be all right, I'll be all right, we'll get through this, and hopefully we have other friends to lean on going through these situations, but it can be really devastating, and again, it's part of why we did this whole episode. I don't feel like this stuff is talked about enough, and certainly not losing friends. We don't talk about that enough. It can be heartbreaking, and I just wanted to share this song because it's been so helpful and meaningful to me. And if you don't want to listen, if Phineas isn't your vibe, then I hope you can take away some sentiments from these lyrics. So next week, we are going to talk about something that, or I should say next episode, we're going to talk about something that's been coming up for me a lot lately. So we're going to focus on motivation, but specifically when it comes to self-work and self-improvement. So while the first step can be setting out goals and thinking about the people that we want to become, basically, finding that inner strength and will to do what's necessary to get there can be just as or even more difficult. So I am definitely looking forward to discussing this deeper as I'm working on that literally as I speak, and it hasn't been easy, like at all. So I'm definitely interested to talk to you guys more about that. But it's been a super long episode, so I'm just gonna quickly plug our socials and end out the episode. So Feel free to follow Redhead Pod on Instagram and Twitter. Leave a like, comment on wherever you're listening. Feel free to DM us on any of our platforms. Always looking for future episode ideas and any comments and stuff. But thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys are having a great day, a great week, and yeah, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed.